Good evening, everyone. Welcome to what should be a very exciting Joe and Joe weather show ahead of what could be the first winter storm, widespread winter storm that we've seen in the area from Pennsylvania to southern New England since probably 2018, I'm going to say. And the Joe and Joe weather show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware. They've been getting ready for the upcoming winter and winter storms. And now that we have one on our doorstep, you should be getting ready too. At Omni True Value Hardware, Long Island's largest rock salt provider. They have the best prices in town. They serve the entire New York City tri-state area. 631-756-1125. This is what it looks like on the outside. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, just north of the Southern State Parkway. And that's just some of the rock salt that they have. And they've got megatons of it. And also, you can get the smaller stuff too. Omni Melt, Petalow calcium chloride pellets, Mag Ice pellets and plates, flakes, shovels, spreaders, snow blowers, even a generator in case the snow knocks your power out. And that's Omni True Value Hardware of West Babylon. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. Okay. And this is usually the time that people run out and get, and the same people every year buy shovels. And you wonder what they do with those shovels, except for the fact that they don't make them like they used to, and they tend to break. And
Yes.
so it's probably just run out and get a new one.
I told my son earlier this afternoon, I said, well, because he doesn't have a snow blower, he does have snow shovels. I said, well, at least you don't have to worry about it being the heavy concrete type, consistency type snow that we saw. We've seen quite a bit of that over the last couple of years. This looks like, Joe, a low density, powdery, puffy type of snow, easily to lift and move away or shovel or broom out once all of this is done. We hope early on Thursday morning.
Well, yeah, we can only hope that that is the case, and it probably will be. The trick, of course, for us is to figure out just exactly how this is all going to play out, and that still up in the air. But I think we're getting there when it comes to trying to bottom line the snow amounts and figure out who's going to change over to rain, who isn't going to change over to rain, and who is going to have to deal with sleet, which is going to be a
This
problem.
got to be, by the way, an all-time record, Joe. Like literally, like 60 seconds ago, we had 154 people watching, and right now we've more than doubled that at 313 and watching and rising. And while all of you are watching, be sure to hit that like button. As the more likes, the better. So
Smash
we
the
hope
like button. Smash it.
that you like it. Like
Also,
would
by the
be
way, we
much
got
appreciated.
two. Well, we were close to are we over 100, Joe? I'm sorry. Are we over 100? Yeah, I know we were almost there.
We have 106 on
Okay,
my
so
screen.
there's one other goal that we need 100 for tonight, and that's 100 more subscribers to my YouTube channel gets me over the 10,000 mark. So we are definitely shooting for that goal. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, guess what? It's very easy to do. It doesn't cost you anything, which is front and center. That's the first thing, and that's a good thing. Just use your Gmail account and have at it, and just hit the subscribe button, and you're all set to go. And you'll get notifications when we do these videos, which is most every night, and also on Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So I
Thank
got
you.
you. Go ahead. I'm
Thank you
sorry,
to
Joe.
David. Thank you to David Fuller. And we also have on the chat board on Super Chats, we have, who else do we have? I thought we had one other person besides David. Well, maybe David is the first or the only. I'm not sure.
I thought I saw someone earlier
Oh,
too.
Doug Wetzel. Yes, there we go.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you,
I had to go
David.
all the way back to find him.
All right. So you've got your snowfall map. I've got my snowfall map. Um, let's let's compare, and we should tell everybody that you and I don't talk to each other during the day, so we really don't know what the other is doing when it comes to um, snowfall maps like this. And the reason, one of the big reasons, is we don't want to get biased. We all forecasters have an idea in mind as to what they're going to do, And what I just did right now is essentially, I thought I had the graphic up. There we go. Should be up here. Ah, there it is. So here's Joe's handy dandy hand drawn snowfall forecast map. So explain, or wait. Should I say splain?
This is really more of a less a compromise because I think that the NAM model is far too wet, and I think that the GFS, now this is what really is bugging the heck out of me. The GFS continues to show most of the atmospheric energy or omega straddling Long Island and the Jersey Shore and just south of New York City. They have the lowest numbers. Also, there's the widest discrepancy between the operational model and the ensemble models of the GFS by a good 240-mile difference. The European model, the difference between the operational and the ensemble is only about 30 miles. Basically, I chose that as like the middle of the road model for making a snow estimate or guesstimate at this moment in time. And I just thought the NAM was just crazy wet.
Well, how
I mean,
I
all of the
didn't exactly look at the total precip amounts it generated. So what did it do?
it generate the NAM generates like 1.6, 1.7 inches of liquid, which if you go with standard 10 to 1,
Right,
that
but
would be
but
like
you know
the.
what?
I begin to wonder whether or not the guys and gals over at the National Weather Service in Upton just went straight out and followed the NAM because Joe, I think they went they're far excessive. I think in terms of
Well,
snow mounts.
I looked at the GFS ensemble precip. Joe has an inch and 3/4 to 2 inches along the north coast of Jersey, and it's got every bit of an inch and a quarter to an inch and 3/4, just about over Long Island and nearby. So I don't know that that's horribly inconsistent with what the dam did. Um, and,
And
and
how come
and
and
it's
how come on
been
tropical
getting wetter with every run. By the way, the GFS and the ensemble precip line has started moving further north. It started doing that earlier today. Uh,
well
just my opinion.
but why then does on tropical tidbits what um, what equation or what analysis is Levi using? Because when you look at the snow map on tropical tidbits for the GFS,
Right.
they're only spitting out like fours and eights and nines or whatever, and they go crazy, hog wild on the
Which
NAM.
wait. Hold on. We're gonna let's take a look at those maps because you I don't know. I saw maps with double-digit numbers all over the place for out of this. So right,
Okay,
let's go through yours and actually mine is not that different from yours. Uh, my numbers are a little bit higher, but they're not that much higher. I did my early call snow forecast map last night, and this is what I came up with. So they're not that different, you and I. I mean, I the only thing that maybe is different is I have that area of heavy snow, that 12-inch plus, um, sort of a triangle, this sort of triangle that pushes up through northwest Jersey, across the Hudson Valley, over Putnam and over Putnam and northern Westchester, and then into Connecticut around Danbury, and then it narrows out. One of the things I struggled with yesterday was trying to figure out the GFS with it was really suppressing a lot of that snow to the south, and uh, what to do with it because the other models weren't doing that. And also, the questions about mixing with sleet for the coast, which is why I have the numbers that I have on Long Island, which is 6 or less to the east, and 10 or more northwest Suffolk, uh, most of the northern part of Nassau, a good chunk of Nassau County, and then going southwest from there into New Jersey. I also did one, which I'll bring up as well, so just to see a little bit of continuity. Let me bring up the other two early calls that I did. I used uh, the geography, just different geography, so that people could see bigger areas. But this is what I did for New Jersey. Now, I'm my mindset here was that for the coastal the inland parts of the coastal counties where it's going to be rain for a while, and then you're going to have to wait for the wind to go back around to the north tomorrow, Wednesday night sometime, to bring cold air down. So I brought a 4-inch line into Ocean County, and then you see where I have the 10 inches running from um, uh, Middlesex County down over toward Trenton, just south of Trenton, to just south of Philadelphia, or just north of Philadelphia. Now, I may be too high on the southern flank of this. Again, this was my early call, and usually when I do an early call, I wait till uh, within 24 hours of start time. So maybe later tomorrow I'll do a final call. So there will be some adjustments that I'm going to do with this. And the other area that I know I'm going to probably have to fix as well was my early call further south for, let me get down into the DC area. So the same logic applies here. I'm okay with the numbers as you go up into northern and northwestern Virginia and into West Virginia, where I have this area of 10 to 12. And admittedly, I'm not trying to. I don't know what the top number is going to be. So I'm not. I don't like playing that game. I think at a certain point where you tell people it's going to be at least a foot, they can figure out that if it winds up being more than a foot, they're not going to be too upset because they knew a foot was coming anyway. The numbers that are down in the southern areas, I may have to pull them up and tighten the gradient and push them up a little bit further to the north. And the same applies here too, where they might get more. They're going to get some on the front side, rain in the middle, and then maybe go back before it's all said and done.
Well, just getting back to the original question, which is where I was getting the lower numbers for the GFS. I mean, I don't look at the total amount of precipitation and just I mean I like to do some shorthand here. So with Levi Cohen's tropical
By
tidbit.
the way, I have the ensemble GFS precip map up right now. This was the 18Z ensemble, so it's just hot off the presses.
Okay. Well, what I'm making reference to is the 24-hour accumulated positive snow depth change, which takes into account any warming and a bit of sleet or rain that might mix in and hold down accumulations a bit.
Okay. All
And
right.
when
Now
I'm
I know
looking
where
at,
you got your numbers from.
yeah, well, I'm just looking and seeing, like, if we're going to be getting so much from the GFS, why doesn't this particular map show that? It's been showing much lower numbers. You look at this map, and then you look at the NAM, and virtually everybody is smeared in green with amounts of 13 and 16 and 15 or whatever.
Right.
And the only
Well,
place where you see anything sizable is on the western New Jersey Pennsylvania border on the GFS, where the positive snow depth change shows 12, and that's it.
okay. So here's the. I've long stopped looking at that positive snow growth map. I just find that I can't seem to figure out how the darn thing works. So what I usually do is I look at the 10-to-1 ratios, and then I mentally figure out, okay, well, how much are we going to lose from sleet? How much are we going to lose from rain? How much are we going to gain from snow ratios? So those kinds of questions. So uh, the other thing is I've seen a few people mention the fact that if you use the 3-inch the color gradation for 3 inches, that's usually a good indicator of where a coating to an inch starts. So you could do a little bit of a correcting that way, but I'm not seeing how you're going to get much corrections going on away from the coastline. And the other thing that I want to point out, I did a pretty deep analysis today. I pulled up GFS mosses from all over the place, and I have to tell you, they're cold. And the NAM mosses were cold, Joe. They
Well, they always are.
No, but they were justifiably cold because of the big high to the north. We're not
Right.
going to 40 tomorrow, so a lot of places. I'm sorry, on Wednesday, and while this is all going on, I think temperatures are going to be pretty much where it's all snow. Its temperatures are probably going to be in the upper 20s and low 30s. So I'm I think the amounts are, I'm also under some of these numbers here. So I'm closer to what you have in totals.
Now, Jason Williams writes, the smaller Joe, who's the smaller Joe, you or me? The smaller Joe is a detailed maniac. I think both Joes are 5 inches too high. The ground is very warm.
Okay,
So
that's lunacy. Okay, wait a minute. That's the warm ground. That's a pet peeve of mine. Okay, the warm ground is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Okay, the warm ground lasts 30 minutes. All right, and
if you had a, if,
particularly tomorrow night into Wednesday morning, we're going to be in the upper teens to mid 20s.
exactly,
Okay, so what do you think? You're going to lay on the ground and the ground is 50 degrees? The ground is not the ocean. It radiates heat at night. The heat it captures in the day goes away at night. So the warm ground is just absolute. It's fallacy. Okay, just putting it. Just be. Let's be clear. That's such a pet peeve of mine. I'm sorry if I'm getting my back up. It it's very. There are very few times that the warm ground concept um, applies. And Joe, you know this. You know this because in 28 was it in February of 2018 when we had record high temperatures in the middle and upper 70s, okay? And we got a foot to a foot and a half of snow the next day. Tell
right.
me tell me about the warm ground. It obviously it didn't work.
Well, that and plus the fact that that storm that you just alluded to came as this storm is going to in the overnight hours. So there's not even any help from the
No,
sun
no,
with
no, 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 no.
infrared and ultraviolet radiation
No,
to.
no, no, no. The one in the 18, the February 18 blizzard was in the daytime.
You sure about that?
Yeah, Joe, I drove from my mother's house at 9 o'clock in the morning because it started in the morning with the lightning and thunder.
But didn't you stay at the hotel that night?
No, you're thinking of a different storm.
Oh, see, yeah. If you're thinking about that 2018, they all melded together. And in fact, in
Right.
March we had
I'm not
four.
talking about the four nor'easters. I'm talking
No,
about the one earlier in that month of February where Newark got almost to 80 degrees and set an all-time
yeah,
high,
was
and
that
and
2017?
of 17. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
17. So Newark got to almost 80 degrees with an all-time high, and 12 hours later it was 19 the next morning with heavy snow falling, and the warm ground didn't work. So
Hmm.
let's lay the warm. Let's end that part of the
How
conversation.
about the sun angle, Joe? It's, I mean, the,
Oh Jesus, Mary and Saint Joseph, here we go with the sun angle. So on
well,
that
first of
note,
all, the
if
sun
you
angle is as low as it can get right now. So
right, on that particular note, folks, if you haven't hit the like button now, be sure you hit the like button because you like the warm ground and the low sun angle. All right, let's look. It's going to be it's going to be a difficult. It's still going to be a difficult forecast. Although I looking at everything today, there's to me there wasn't a whole lot of difference in the models. There were some subtle differences, but they all seem to be coalescing on the idea of this low coming up and moving off the Delaware coast and then riding out to the east. And this was the latest GFS with all that dark blue over northern New Jersey and Long Island. Now, a lot of folks are looking at the NAM are saying, okay, well, then you have to have the jackpot zone is going to be north and west of the big cities. But the GFS is colder and is a little further south. But even the NAM, the late afternoon run of the NAM was colder, a little colder than the prior run. So they all seem to be kind of going in this direction. The European was pretty much in the same place too. There's not a whole lot of difference between them. So I feel comfortable with the numbers that I have. And by the way, to be fair, let's just bring up the weather service. I have the blue area that's up here on the box. I got to put the point values back up. But the blue area, that's all the winter storm watches that are up right now for all of southern and parts of southeastern New England, Long Island, the lower, and I don't know if that's the middle Hudson Valley at the top of there, but it's south of Albany. And also a good chunk of all of eastern Pennsylvania, most of central, all of south central, southeastern Pennsylvania, and then you can work your way down to Baltimore, Washington. I think Washington may be just outside of the winter storm watch area, but Baltimore is in it. And then winter storm watches down the northern Virginia, Harrisonburg, down to Blacksburg. On the West Virginia side, also we have winter storm watches. We should mention too, by the way, Joe, new moon. Am I right?
Right. Oh
So
yeah, that's right.
new
We had an
moon.
eclipse of the sun in South America today too.
Yeah,
So yeah,
coastal flooding. Coastal flood watches up for the Jersey Shore and also for the Long Island shoreline for the potential, probably for some moderate coastal flooding and a little bit of beach erosion at the high tides when this thing gets off the Delaware coast. So not going to be a fun time for shore residents that are susceptible to tidal flooding. And I'll bring up the weather service. Let me bring up the snowfall forecast map. And this was updated. Well, I I just clicked on total new precip, so let's might as well start with that, and then we'll switch over to snow. We'll give this thing a moment to load.
but
Um,
just getting back to the what we led off with many minutes ago or whatever, and how I came up with that map. I mean, as I said earlier, I felt the NAM was the wettest solution. The GFS came in my mind, much drier and sharper with its north-south gradient. The European and also the Canadian, your favorite, Joe, the Canadian models kind of split the difference and fell in between the two, although not as wet as the NAM, because again, I think the NAM really went overboard with how much precip it spit out. And I think, assuming that this storm takes a track toward the 4070 benchmark, um, what more can you say with all the cold air in place? But again, a snowfall possibly 8 to maybe as much as 8 inches to possibly as much as a foot.
so you're about a third lower than the Weather Service numbers, and I'm about a quarter under the Weather Service numbers. They've got some 18-inch amounts. Harrisburg, they've got 18. Allentown, 17. Bridgeport, 15. They actually give Islip 14.
How
LaGuardia,
could that be?
13. What's
How's
that?
that possible, Joe? I mean, like, don't you think that there's going to be at least a bit of mixing with some sleet or even a little tiny bit of plain rain in places like Islip or whatever out east
I don't.
between forks to
The GFS never takes the temperatures at Islip over the freezing mark
oh,
at low levels.
well, all right, but it's still we could have
Uh, Okay,
maybe
so look, I'm not I didn't go for 14. So the Weather Service went for 14. I'm accounting for the possibility there could be some sleet, but their forecast logic, they looking at some of the different levels. Also in the NAM, by the way, I Bill Goodman mentioned to me. I forgot what level he was looking at. One of the levels that he was looking at suggests that it would be all snow on Long Island out of this. So look, that is the sleet question is there. I noticed the European backed off on the amount of sleet it produces over Long Island, by the way. I still think that there may be a few hours. Depending on how much precip is produced, it might not make a difference. I'm on the low end. I'm lower than the 14. I've got that zone in 8 to 10. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This is not an easy forecast. With a 50-degree ocean, it's not an easy forecast.
12 consecutive, at least 12-hour duration, this storm. You agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that in order for me, and I know they have like 16 inches where I live, I'm going to have to literally go
You're
12
going to
consecutive
have at
hours?
least, you're going to have 3 or 4 hours where it's going at least 2 inches an hour.
Exactly.
Okay.
I
So
can't remember it going that, even a consecutive 12 consecutive hours of 1 inch per hour, you
I
know,
just realized, by the way,
and where's the banding going to set up, you know?
well, I just realized that there might have been a difference between the 12Z and the 18Z because the GFS because the 18Z GFS has got liquid amounts between an inch and a half and an inch and 3/4, all of New Jersey, Long Island, and then it does go down as you go up north. You're more along the lines of about um, 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a quarter.
And I wish we had Larry Cosgrove here because he knows, he's in with the Miller B and the Miller A storm. I think he probably would know what they wrote in the Albany discussion. They said the overall get this now, Joe. The overall synoptic setup of this system fits right in with the quasi-stationary banding shown in the Kenyon Sea-Star research,
Oh, okay, yeah.
which supports the idea. I mean, I'm looking at Marina and say, what the heck is that? I never 40 years I've been in this business. I've never heard of the Kenyon Sea-Star research.
There's so there's stuff like that for everything, and when I read it, I'm like, what is this? And you have to go out there and take a survey among people. Can you tell me? Do you know what this is? Can you identify this? Because I have no idea.
From what we were talking about, with 12 hours of 1 inch, this Kenyon Sea-Star research supports the idea that some periods of heavy snowfall with rates near 1 inch per hour at times are possible Wednesday night. Not even mentioning the fact that there has to be a few hours, maybe of 2 or 3 inches an hour to get the 16 that
yeah, but Albany's zone goes down to Dutchess. It doesn't go down further south. I know you're not far from Dutchess, but what's that?
In fact, at one time, Albany had jurisdiction over Putnam County before they handed it back over to
New York.
New York. So, I mean, we're basically in the same game here. I just want to know, somebody out there, if they know what the Kenyon Sea-Star research means, send me an email.
Yeah, but don't rush. Don't rush on that email. All right, so we've decided that amounts can vary. How's that? How's that for being political? Amounts can vary from place to place based on topography, wind direction, temperature, and all the rest of it. So that we'll agree on. So let's take a look at the upper area, because this trough, one of the things that favors the fact that there might be less mixing is the fact that the shortwave is getting a bit fractured, as it's a definable shortwave, but unlike what and this was one of the big differences with the NAM and the other models from earlier, Joe, was the fact that the NAM was the last remaining model that actually had a little cutoff low with this shortwave as it went by. I didn't look at its 500 on the 18Z, but the other models have this sort of fractured look here of this shortwave. It actually goes negative right in here. You can see it right there. It goes negatively tilted, but and it's getting kicked along. If this were more wrapped up in the upper atmosphere, then you would have pulled that surface low, made it practically a coast hugger, and then you would have had the warm air sweep in from off the ocean. So the fact that the upper feature is not quite as well defined allows for the bulk of the warming to be kept at bay. I also think we're not going to know this until Wednesday, and that is, how important is this big high to the north that doesn't get out of the way with the cold air that it has? Because we're looking at temperatures Wednesday morning in upstate New York that are going to be in the single digits to below zero, and downstate New York that are going to be in the teens and low 20s. And there's going to be a north-northeast wind for at least part of the day on Wednesday. So those temperatures are going to go nowhere. They may start creeping up a bit as the precip starts to move northward and as the low gets closer. But again, looking at the mosses, and it's been my experience over the years, Joe, that with the mosses in cases like this, with highs and in a block, that as cold as the mosses might look, they oftentimes aren't cold enough. So that's going to be something that we're going to know on Wednesday when we get there. Just exactly how cold, how much real cold air are we dealing with here?
Kind of reminds me of, now I'm going way back here, really beginning to show my age, the first President's Day storm of 1979, where it was very cold on that Sunday into Sunday night.
Yeah, it was zero.
And then the storm finally came up. But the interesting thing about that was that the snow fell very rapidly, very hard. I think New York City got like 12 or 14 inches within just 4 or 5 hours time. Sharp cutoff again up where I live, for example, here in Putnam Valley, we might have gotten maybe 2 or 3 inches. And again, it was all due to how cold and how dry the high pressure was to the north of the storm.
Yeah.
And it was also just like this system, that system in 79 was a rapidly moving open wave shortwave, never closed off. It just rippled, if you will, right across the mid Atlantic and set the stage for all of that mayhem that we had that Sunday night into early Monday morning in 1979.
And that low got very deep. It was very impressive on the satellite.
Absolutely, it had an eye.
Yes, it did. All right, so I pulled up the Canadian satellite. Let's go on to let's look at how things are setting up, and of course, this lead low that's coming out. I'm going to look. This needs to update, so I'm going to update this. And you're seeing, by the way, if you look when you watch the loop and you watch the cloud motion, uh, we have, as we mentioned, that connection to Canada. If you look at the rotation of the clouds, you're seeing the air flowing down from Canada, and that is right in here, this cold intrusion that is coming in behind this low that has moved out, and this low is going to wind up in near Nova Scotia tomorrow, and you're going to see it intensify and wrap up. That is your 50-50 low. That is the low in a position that creates a block, and as that cold air, that connection, that cold air spreading into the Northeast, bleeding down into the middle Atlantic states, and even bleeding down into the mountains of the Carolinas, where there's going to be some ice to deal with in that area. And this is those are the puzzle pieces that we needed in order to have this happen. And when you think back a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about hints of opportunities appearing maybe around mid-month. I tell you that, I mean, I never envisioned that we would go into a wholesale 50-50 block. That was a wonderful surprise to have happen. But you've got, I guess it's 2020, Joe. We haven't seen I don't think we've seen a 50-50 block scenario since the Snowmageddon storm of 13.
Hang
So
on for a second, Joe. Let me take this call here. Hello? Ralph. Hey, I haven't spoken to you in a while. Yeah, I'm talking to him just now. What do you need to know? Well, I'll ask him.
what? Ralph
Joe,
who?
Joe,
Our
Ralph,
Ralph?
Ralph is on the line and he wants to know if you and I are interested in getting a hotel room for Wednesday night.
Oh. What kind? Ralph, you're gonna make me ask a question that will be embarrassing. So,
Ralph, I'll have to call you back
Ralph,
on
I'll
that.
leave the accommodations up to you. Just leave the key under the door.
Exactly. All right. There you go. Don't you love, Joe? You don't have to worry about stuff like that anymore.
I've had that question posed to me a couple of times in the last couple of days, and I gave him the same answer. I am so glad I no longer have to drive in it. And you know what? I can sit here a Wednesday night and watch it. Oh, by the way, let me just before we go on, Patreon members, those of you who are a part of my weather platform on Patreon, we have a weather Zoom tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So we're going to live stream the new NAM, and we're going to look at the plumes on the SREF and
Oh, I
anything
haven't
else you
looked at
want
the
to talk
plumes
about.
today.
So what's that?
I didn't even look at the
I
plumes.
looked at them.
The
I'll tell
plumes.
you about them in a second. So the link will be up on Patreon so that you can go into the waiting room, and I'm going to let everybody in at about 8:55. So
Oh, good. You better open that waiting room door earlier because they'll freeze outside waiting for you.
yes, of course. So the pieces in Canada were all in place. We take a look at the U.S. satellite, and of course today's mess with rain and some. Did you get any wet snow that mixed in up your way?
Oh yeah, plenty of wet snow. It didn't stick to any degree. Even to the grass, it hardly stuck.
Yeah.
And and the turkeys were back today, plucking away at the bird seed underneath my feeder. Had 21 of them this afternoon, Joe. I don't know. The snow and unsettled weather seems to bring out the turkeys.
Well, maybe they like it that way.
And you're talking to the biggest one right now.
Yes, okay. The our storm moving out to the east, of course, drier air coming in, should have started clearing. I think it looks like we may have already cleared out here. I haven't been outside in a while, and the radar. That rain is all offshore, disappearing, very quiet. Actually, the weather across most of the country is quiet. It's a little bit of snow going on in parts of eastern Colorado and into parts of Kansas, and we're starting to see a little bit of rain approaching the Pacific Northwest. This is something I saved this. Let me bring this up because I think you will appreciate this. So this morning I went to WPC to look at their probabilities, and what struck me, Joe, was the fact that suddenly I realized that this is actually a good tool to use for when we're days out, when it begins to appear like we're going to have something, but you don't want to go with a snowfall forecast map. But you don't really see this too often. This is the 72-hour probability of at least 8 inches. This is what they had this morning, an 80 to 90% chance of at least 8. That doesn't happen very often
No,
for them
it
to go
doesn't.
that high. And
It doesn't.
I also had, I saved another one. So we could take a look at what they've updated that to. What was the other one? Was this one? This was the probability of at least of 12, of greater than 12, and they actually had this is the second shade of blue, so it's 50 to 60%. I did the opacity so you could sort of read where the cities were. So they actually had a 50 to 60% chance of at least 12 in northern New Jersey and through much of eastern Pennsylvania. And even back to New York City, they had the western edge of the 30 to 40% line. That's a high number. That's
Yep.
sort of like when SPC puts a 15% risk, and it sounds like a low number, but it isn't. Or when they have a 5% risk for a tornado, it sounds like a low number, but it really isn't. That's the same for when you're talking about a foot and a 40% chance. That's not a low number. So SPC at least was uh, was paying attention to this. This was their forecast from late this afternoon, and they had this is the probability of 12, and they kind of expanded it, Joe. They moved it over to your house. Kind of looks like my 12-inch line with that triangle.
Right.
I just pushed it a little bit into Western Connecticut, but they had this is their probability, and that lightest blue, by the way, is a 70 to 80% chance of greater than 12. So
Wow.
they seem to be, they seem to be leaning toward the bigger amounts that some of the weather models are producing. Of course, you know what? It's a forecast, and you can't criticize a forecast until the day after it's done, and then you could go back and see,
They even have
what
they even
went
have
right and
albeit
what
a,
went wrong.
they even have albeit an exceedingly small chance, 5%, I guess, right? Or 1 to 5% chance of 12 inches as far south as Sandy Hook.
Yes, I'm just going to give this a quick refresh because I did notice the other day that yesterday they updated it a couple of times during the day. All right, so no, that was the latest one. So it's a pretty in case, by the way, in case you were interested in 2 inches or more, you can see the large area of 95 to 100%. So they've already at least locked in 2 inches for a good portion of the area that's under a winter storm watch. Javon Perry, thank you for hitting super chat tonight, Joe, and I really do appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
so WPC seems to be on board with this. The NAM, the last run of the NAM model, overnight and this morning, the NAM was pulling that surface low pretty far to the left, and then it started going back the other way. And now it just moves the low off of the coast in southeast Virginia and then just takes it, instead of pulling it back to the coast, it just starts to move it along to the northeast, and it keeps it all snow on Long Island, changes it back to snow in New Jersey, and again it pushes up that northern stream, the northern extent of the precip into central New Hampshire and central Vermont. The GFS late this afternoon, um, actually on the precip shield, pushed it up a little bit further to the north, but it's been suppressed pretty much for for many of these runs that we've seen. But you see it here from the radar presentation. Central South Jersey start off as rain on the GFS, and then they go back to snow after the low goes by, and then the low pulls away out to the east. All the models are have this idea now, so there really isn't there really isn't too much difference. And by the way, the SREF, the last plumes, and I can bring those up. We can play a little bit with the SREF.
Well, the thing is that again, it looks like to me that this whole thing was going to be heading in the general vicinity of 4070, the so-called benchmark, where we usually see some of our biggest storms, biggest snows. So, assuming that idea will work out, and assuming that this storm does not take a sudden track more to the south and east, and I might point out, Joe, that at least on the 12Z ensembles for the GFS, the difference between the operational and the ensemble was a good 240 miles more to the south and east. So
Right.
assuming that that doesn't happen, you have to think that we're going to see at least a sizable amount of snow. Maybe in many cases, as I said, 8 to 12 inches. That's what I came up with.
Yeah, the ensembles on the 18Z were further north, on much closer to the operational, which really the operational didn't really change very much. Islip on the last run of the SREF uh, went up from 6 to 8, just to 5 to 8. I'm sorry. And let me just explain really quick what the SREF is a model from Stony Brook University. It's got a whole bunch of different models in it. There's like 30 members, and what it does is you could use it for temperature, you could use it for snow amounts, and it plots everything. And that black line that you see on the screen, that's the average of all those member models, and when you run your cursor on it, it'll tell you what the amounts are. So the mean was something like about 8, a little over 8 inches. And the other thing I was looking at too with this was the 3 hourly temperature, and you can see here that it flatlines right at that dark blue line is the 32-degree line. So it kind of flatlines here. This is actually Wednesday night. It's like 32, 33. This is at Islip, by the way. And half the members are above that, half the members are below it. But during the day on on Wednesday, it's moving. It's just kind of struggling up through the 20s to around 30. So it's at least trying to indicate the importance of that high to the north and the cold air, which again I think that really is going to be the key to how much snow we're going to wind up with. It's all about the high, and we've been saying that for days now.
In fact, somebody who must have been watching Joe and Joe, Coffee with Joe and Joe yesterday morning, when I alluded to a former colleague of mine at the weather office I used to work at back in the 70s and 80s, he was at Penn State and he was referring to one of his professors who always used to refer to the cold highs as the most important facet of a snowstorm. And he always used to say, the old man's high or whatever. And somebody wrote to me this afternoon saying, Joe, where do you think the old man high is going to be during the storm? So yeah, that indeed is going to be the key, Mr. Chiaffi, I think, is where that big high is going to be. A lot of people focus on the storm, but in a lot of cases, sometimes it's the high itself that plays a significant role. And that high, especially, where's that cutoff going to be? Where is that northern cutoff? I mean, some of these models have the cutoff down, let's say, as far south as Dutchess County, Ulster County, Sullivan, and others have the snow going all the way up past Albany.
Yeah, I know,
And
that's made for a big headache here. It's made for a big headache here. That's why I didn't want to go hog wild with the numbers from the get go. And I don't
yeah,
believe that my forecast from yesterday did go hog wild. As it turns out now, I'm underneath what most everybody else's numbers are, and I'm only a little bit higher than you. In some places, I'm actually maybe a little bit lower than you. Here's the 18Z ensemble, Joe. The center of the low, the mean center there is right just east of the Delaware coast. It's very close to where the operational is.
hmm,
And then the members, when you go out, it just kind of goes out straight east, which is
right,
what the operational does. So it's a lot closer on this one.
right. But then again, as somebody brought up yesterday, but Joe doesn't like the intermediate, the 18Z procs. So
Well,
well, we'll
it's
see what happens at 0Z tonight with with the next run of the primary.
I read somebody.
Primary.
I did see something today about they're actually going to send a reconnaissance aircraft in there into the shortwave to sample it and get that data into the runs tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they going to give it a Greek? If it comes up with the right
Why are they going to
name,
name
are they
it?
gonna give it a Greek number, Greek letter, or
What was the
what are they
last
going to do
one?
about
Yoda?
Yoda or Iota? I
Yeah,
don't
we
know.
didn't get past Yoda.
Yeah.
There's still time.
Well, if this develops into something, maybe we can call it Baby Yoda.
Oh, yes, very good. All right, so look, the bottom line is there's not going to be really a whole lot, I don't think, uh, that's going to change in the forecast very much over the next 48 hours. We're at the point now where I just wanted to just let it just do it, just start it and get it over with, and
Yeah.
let's see what we wind up, and then if it turns out we were too low, we'll go back and see what went wrong. If it turns out uh, we were too high, we'll go back and see where we went wrong. And in the absolutely most likely event, which is that both our forecasts will be absolutely perfect in every single spot, then we won't have much. Then we can just go back and say how brilliant we were.
Well, here's the thing. Tomorrow night, and spread the word, all of you 596 people who are on the board right now watching us. Is that the 596? I mean, is that the absolute number, or are there lurkers out there that we could add to that
I think
596?
those are concurrent viewers.
Okay. Well, all of you who are listening to my voice right now, remember or be aware of this. Tomorrow night, instead of two guys with 80 years of experience, you're going to have three guys totaling 130 years experience here, because we're going to have on former Rambling with Gambling morning meteorologist, former chief meteorologist at News 12 Long Island, former News Radio 88 meteorologist, the legendary Bill Corbell, who will be on tomorrow night with us, and he'll be just as confused as the two of us, probably,
Exactly.
with
All
this.
right, I'm going to run through the NAM. I'm sorry, the GFS, the late afternoon run, really quick. Just do a little bit of long range because the pattern stays very active, and I accidentally closed my browser before, so I deleted the teleconnections pages. But I could I will save them for another day. Just trust me. The NAO is neutral to negative, the PNA is neutral to positive, and the AO is negative to off the wall negative. So we have, and even the East Pacific oscillation, just eyeballing it from the maps, is going to go negative. So we may have the superfecta in the upper air pattern in the next 2 weeks. But it is very active. This is our storm for tomorrow, of course, and then that goes out. Excuse me, will be dry after that. Looks like a weak system goes by to our north on Sunday. It doesn't look like much happens here after this storm until we get to maybe the early next week. At least on the GFS, there's another one of these northern southern shortwave battles. You got a strong northern shortwave with cold air, a low off the southeast coast that comes out of the southern stream, and on this particular run, it bombs it out and buries eastern New England. This would be the day before Christmas Eve if it verifies, but who knows if that's real. But the bottom line is, and there's another one that comes out for after Christmas with the complex storm system going to the lakes. Again, who knows if that's what it's going to look like. But Joe, you take a look at the upper air. I was actually uh, quite taken aback by uh, what we had with that whole ridge in the east scenario and what we're in. When you look at this running through the long range, and I'll just let me bring it back to the present time here. So this is our system now for Wednesday. If you look in the North Atlantic and up toward Greenland and the Arctic, it's all that reddish brown, higher than normal pressures. You get a little bit of a connection from Canada around the 22nd, 23rd. You see the hookup there with the upper lows from northwest to southeast Canada, and then that southern stream system hooks up with it. That's why it has that bomb that it shows going up toward eastern New England 2 days before Christmas. And it just keeps rolling along. I mean, it gets really blind. There's a 50-50 low again around December 30th. It's just a very blocky look with a split flow. I'll just say this. Um, if the pattern even remotely resembles this, and we continue to have this scenario where we have separate active jet streams north and south, it's just a matter of time before we get another opportunity for another winter storm somewhere in the
Right. The
east.
analogy I use with the two roulette wheels, and eventually, I mean, not all the time, but eventually, you're going to get your pair of numbers locked up, and boom, as you just mentioned, Joe, away you go with a lovely teleconnection and maybe another potential big storm.
That is correct, and we are back up full screen. So um, coming up right now, it's 8:21 Eastern time. I want to just mention again for those of you who are on my weather platform on Patreon, uh, we're going to do a weather zoom at 9 o'clock. Uh, David's already in the waiting room, but I'm not going to let anybody in for another 35 minutes. So when we're going to wrap up the show soon, you can go ahead and go into get your link, which I posted a little while ago, and we'll let you in at a little bit before 9 o'clock. So I guess we pretty much covered it. There's not a whole lot left for us to say, is there?
No, except that I'm thinking ahead to like Thursday night, and you and I will be sitting here, and one of us or both of us will say, "Well, we didn't expect that to happen, did we?" Did
Right.
we?
The
It's always the same thing. You
by the
think
way,
it,
the chairman Scott Briller, who's out doing COVID runs tonight for his job, and we continue to hope that he stays good and safe from the virus. He was the one who he practically picked the date on the nose for the first accumulating snow.
he had
Assuming
somewhere.
that we wind up with accumulating snow on Wednesday, I think he said like the 15th or the 16th, something like that. So
Wouldn't it be funny if that high got really flexed its muscles and pushed that storm all the way south to?
you really want this to go away, don't you? You really want this to go away.
I just don't feel like shoveling snow anymore, Joe.
You got you have a snowblower. You have
I
Mrs.
understand. I
Rayo.
still don't want to. I don't. Yeah, I'll send her out to do it, and I'll be sitting inside looking out the window, right?
What's wrong with that?
Joe, Joe, you may rue saying that because I know she
You
must be
know
mad.
that I am a great admirer of Mrs. Rayo, and she fixes snowblowers. She
Yes.
fixes washing machines. She fixes everything. Okay? She changes her own oil, right?
No, I don't think she goes
She
that
doesn't
far.
go out, but she can. She knows how to change her oil.
Probably she would if she really had to. I bet you she could probably go underneath. But first she'd have to figure out where she put the jack stands.
Right. And you know, it's hard for me to pay attention to the chat board um, as far as any questions or comments. So if you had a question, I'm sorry, I'm kind of scrolling back here to see. I'm not seeing any questions. Everybody's got their opinions, of course, about how much snow we're going to have. And hey, if you're a weather enthusiast, this is your opportunity to put your cards on the table and make a forecast. What do you think is going to happen for places like New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Boston, Hartford, Providence, Albany? Write the numbers down and see how it turns out. You may turn out like what we usually do in cases like that when those numbers don't turn out well. You know,
Yeah,
we just cower, run, and hide.
I didn't make that prediction. Who said 8 to 12
Right,
inches?
exactly. Must have been another station that you're usually watching.
Exactly, exactly.
All right.
So tomorrow night, again, we have our special guest, Bill Corbell. You don't have any surprise guests lined up for tomorrow night.
No, not that I know of. I don't think
You could have
so.
been, you could have had Bill Goodman on again tomorrow night, and then we would have two Bills and two Joes.
My guess is he's on shift tomorrow night, but if he's
Right.
around, I could always, I could always ask him if he feels up to it. He could pop in
I think his shift starts at like noontime, and if it's a standard 8 hour shift, that means he'll be coming off shift just as we're halfway through.
or more. Although yesterday you saw he was doing it from his car, so
Yeah.
nothing will stop him. All
Yes, and
right.
I guess he calls me the smaller Joe. He says the smaller Joe is sadistic and is a snow antagonist, but may he be right.
Well,
I guess.
you're not a, I don't know. You're not really anti-snow.
Are you? Maybe you're the smaller Joe.
You've just become a bit more of a curmudgeon.
No, this is 40 years, and the first 20 were so many years of jumping up and down for snow and then being bitterly disappointed because something came up that we didn't anticipate.
Right, but the last 20 years, it's been the opposite because you've been working to become the well-known, famous weather person that you are in the Hudson Valley, and you had to drive in all of those big storms.
Well,
So,
that's true. I knew though that people looked at me as a snow curmudgeon because there was one particular storm event some years ago, and there was a discussion on one of the chat boards about this, and one of the people brought this up. Well, I know we're going to get it. We're definitely going to get it. Even Joe Rayo is saying that we're going to get it.
even Joe Rayo. Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So
Very nice.
that's I'm the last link to potential no snow when people want to see just how important or just how possible something is. I guess they check with me first and say, well, if he's going for it, then we are going to get it. So
Right. All right, let's wrap it up. So, okay, Patreon folks, go in the waiting room. I'll get you in a little while. And Joe and I will be back tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern Time, which will be the our last chance to change forecasts.
and thank you for the 329 likes. You did indeed smash the like button tonight.
Awesome, and thank you also those of you who hit super chat tonight. We Joe and I really appreciate it greatly. I think it was Mr. Perry, Mr. Wetzel, and Mr. Fuller were the super chat hits.
Maybe tomorrow night we'll do it,
Hopefully,
Joe.
I
Maybe
didn't leave
tomorrow.
anybody out. Did I leave anybody out?
I don't think
Nope,
so.
I got all three. Okay.
Maybe tomorrow night we'll do it, and we'll finally break 1,000 tomorrow night.
Well, we
That
may
would be
very well be. All
that
right.
might.
Subscribe to my YouTube channel, folks. I'm trying to get to 10,000. I need 100 going into this show, so hopefully I'll get there. Uh, if not tonight, maybe tomorrow night. So everybody, stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern Time.
Good night.